On a quiet weekday evening, long after the cafe rush had dissolved into the low hum of cups and distant traffic, there was a table near the window that nobody really noticed at first. A father sat there with a notebook open, not working, not scrolling, just occasionally glancing toward the door like someone who had learned patience the slow way rather than the confident way. His daughter, maybe 8 years old, colored carefully beside him, not hurried coloring, but the kind where a child checks if the sun should be perfectly round or slightly oval because she has decided realism matters today. Across the room, at the shared counter, a group of co-workers talked louder than they needed to, the way people sometimes do when they're still mentally in the office and haven't yet transitioned into being human again. One of them, sharp voice, quick humor, always first to make a comment before a thought fully forms, noticed the man after noticing the child, and like most observations in public spaces, curiosity turned into commentary. "You know," she said half-jokingly to her friend but loud enough for the air to carry it, "single dads always look calm like that, but relationships? Impossible. A woman would be bored in a week." It wasn't cruel exactly, just careless, the kind of sentence people throw into the world because silence feels heavier than speculation. The man heard it. He didn't react immediately, and that pause mattered. He finished listening to his daughter explain why clouds shouldn't be outlined in black because they're not cartoons, then leaned slightly toward the group just enough that the tone stayed conversational, not confrontational. "Wanna bet?" he said, softly, almost politely, as if he were inviting discussion, not defending pride. The co-workers laughed, not at him, but at the unexpected calmness, and the woman who had spoken raised an eyebrow in amusement more than challenge. "You're confident," she replied. "No," he said, closing the notebook, "just experienced in different problems." What followed wasn't a dramatic exchange or flirtation. Instead, a strange, unplanned conversation began, one that nobody in the cafe realized they were quietly listening to. She asked what he meant, expecting perhaps a defensive speech about loyalty or sacrifice, but he didn't give one. He asked her a question instead: "Do you think pleasing someone means keeping them entertained?" She shrugged. "Partly. People get tired of responsibility." He nodded, not disagreeing, but not agreeing either. "Responsibility doesn't tire people," he said, "unshared expectation does." The conversation shifted tone right there. The co-workers who had been half listening now fully listened, and even the barista slowed the grinder slightly, unconsciously prolonging the moment. The daughter kept coloring, occasionally glancing up, not confused, not concerned, simply used to adults having conversations around her that weren't urgent. The woman pulled her chair slightly closer, curiosity replacing teasing. "Okay," she said, "explain." He didn't rush. He stirred his tea though it didn't need stirring, organizing thoughts the way someone does who has practiced speaking only after understanding what they mean. "Most relationships fail," he said, "because people negotiate roles after they've already assigned emotions. They decide how they feel first, then later argue about expectations. Parenting doesn't allow that luxury. You agree on responsibilities before the emotion becomes the center." She leaned back. "So you're saying dating a single parent is structured?" He smiled slightly. "Structured honesty. You don't perform interest, you schedule presence. If I say I'll call, I call at the time I said, not when I feel inspired. That's not romance, but it builds something stronger than excitement." The group grew quiet, not because they were convinced, but because the argument wasn't defensive, it was observational. The woman tapped the counter thoughtfully. "Still sounds unspontaneous." The man shrugged gently. "Spontaneity is wonderful when life has empty space. When life has weight, reliability becomes romantic." Outside, a motorbike passed, headlights briefly painting the cafe walls gold before fading again. The daughter finished her drawing and pushed it toward him without interrupting the discussion. He glanced at it and nodded with serious appreciation, the kind adults usually fake, but he didn't. Then he looked back at the woman. "You weren't wrong earlier," he added. A lot of single parents are bad partners. But not because they lack attention. Because they confuse survival habits with relationship habits. She tilted her head. Meaning? When you've spent years solving problems alone, you forget partnership isn't efficiency. It's participation. The co-workers exchanged glances. The teasing had transformed into something reflective. She rested her chin on her hand. So your bet? He shook his head lightly. Not about pleasing women. About understanding people. Different skill. The cafe door opened again, cool air entering, but nobody looked away from the conversation now. It wasn't dramatic, not flirtatious, not competitive, just two adults exploring assumptions most people never slow down enough to question. And in that calm exchange, the original teasing sentence lost its meaning, replaced by a quieter curiosity, not whether a single dad could please a woman, but whether anyone really understood what they were asking from another person in the first place.